Hi, everyone. I'm Scott Silverman, co-founder of Commerce Next. We're a community event series and conference for marketers at retail and DTC brands. On behalf of my co-founders, Veronica Sonsev and Alan Dick, I'd like to welcome you to our weekly webinar. Today, the topic is the new performance marketing playbook for back to school, holiday 2021, and beyond going into next year. One of the big e-commerce themes for this year so far is how performance marketing is changing. And today we'll be talking about changes to the marketing environment, such as search algorithms and data privacy restrictions, and how marketers are adjusting, and things like rethinking the role of brand and creative and looking at other channels. So as always, we'll be taking your questions. Feel free to load those up during the presentation. And thank you all for tuning in and making the time to join us live or listen to the replay. So I want to start with a few important thank yous. So first, I want to thank today's speakers. Today we have Vivek Kumar, Chief Revenue Officer at UrbanStems, Lizzielinski, she's Chief Growth Officer at Lunia, and Frank Vidovich, VP Solutions at Botify. And as a thank you to the speakers for taking your time to share your insights with our community, you're all going to be receiving a nice summer gift from Gift Now, our gifting partner. As well, 5 lucky attendees listening in will also be getting a gift. So you need to be listening live for that. And I want to give a big thank you to Botify for sponsoring today's webinar. This is webinar 46 for us, and we could not do these without our support of our sponsors. And the Botify team, working with them, it's clear how passionate and dedicated they are to bringing valuable content to our audience, and it's been a real pleasure working with them. So after letting you know about some of the things that are coming up and some quick housekeeping info, Frank is going to give us a presentation on trends in performance marketing. We will do some audience polls, and then we'll bring up our panel, turn their cameras on, and have a great interactive discussion with the panelists. So as far as what's coming up, we are continuing our webinar series next week on Wednesday, August 4th. The topic is opportunities and challenges of personalization at scale, and that's with Weight Watchers, or WW, formerly Weight Watchers, DXL Group, and Imperity, and it's going to be moderated by my fellow co-founder, Veronica Sonsev. Also, I want to remind everybody, we are super excited to get back in person for Commerce Next IRL. That is September 28th and 29th. So just a couple of months away. It's in New York City at the Hilton, New York Hilton Midtown. And we're continuing to add speakers, retailers, and brands. Please register soon before our complimentary VIP tickets are no longer available, and those are all taken. We also have been trying to provide as much useful content as we can. We are now into episode 3 of Conversations with Commerce Next, presented by Wonderkin. This is an interview with Elf Beauty's Chief Digital Officer, Ekta Chopra, and she talks about her transition from IT leader to business leader and the importance of staying curious and continuous learning. So these are always a combination of career advice and marketing insights. So you can find this on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And as a reminder, if you missed any past events, we have a pretty robust YouTube channel with all of our past webinars and virtual summit contents. You could go to youtube.com/commercenext, and there's a tremendous amount of content for you to check out there. So quick housekeeping note, don't worry about missing anything. We're recording the webinar today. It'll be available by tomorrow as a replay. And I want to show you a couple things on the Big Marker webinar platform so you can make the most of your time with us this afternoon or this morning. First, everything is on the upper right. You can chat, you can ask questions for the speakers. The handouts are there. When we do the audience polling, that's all accessed from that upper right. So chat is where you can talk to your fellow attendees. You can give the speakers high fives, interact with other audience members. And if you have questions, I mean, we will see them in the chat, but it's easier if you put them in the Q&A. Also, when you put them in the Q&A, you can see these questions that other audience members are asking. You can upvote them to help us prioritize which questions we're going to have our speakers respond to. And just, on the bottom there is where you submit your question. So there's a couple handouts. One is the presentation that Frank from Botify on performance marketing trends is available as a handout. Also, there is an SEO playbook that Botify put together, and that's available as a handout as well. Frank's going to be talking about a couple of things that are in there, and there's some great additional material there. And if you're listening as a replay, look on the bottom right on that what's circled in the red, and that's where you can get the handouts as well. So to set the table for our discussion on new performance marketing, Frank Vitovich, he's VP of Solutions at Botify. He's going to be presenting an overview of changes and trends that are happening in digital marketing. Frank has over 15 years of experience in search marketing and organic search. At Botify, he runs a team of SEO experts who provide technical guidance to their clients and keep them updated on a constantly changing market. So with that, please welcome Frank to our virtual stage.
Hey, everybody, and thank you for that introduction, Scott. Yep, as Scott said, I'm going to be running through some of the trends that we're seeing in our corner of performance marketing heading into back to school and holiday, and also some of what we've seen over the last year as a lot of the digital landscape has really shifted given everything that has been going on. Before jumping in case anybody is unfamiliar, we are if anybody is unfamiliar. We are Botify. We are a enterprise SEO platform where we are really trying to take SEO and turn it into a performance marketing channel. Whereas maybe that hasn't been how it has been thought of, in the past, but that is really our goal, and our mission. And we do that through what we call our full funnel approach, which really takes a look at SEO from all stages, all the way from crawling through to conversions. A lot of times people hear SEO, they think of rankings. As you can see, I have it highlighted there, but that's really just kind of one small component of the SEO funnel. And for anything to really get found through organic search, it has to go through all of these stages. If any of the processes fail, early on, the later steps really don't matter, and all that great content that we create isn't going to really reach its full potential if we really focus on each of those stages. And that's really where we help our clients and how we help our clients turn organic search into a performance marketing channel. For today, though, we're really going to be talking, about some of the trends that we see that are shaping, 2021, and some of the things that we've learned over the past year. And there's really four kind of key trends that we're going to walk through today before we jump into our panel. The first of which is really just the volatility of Google as an organic search engine. There's already been multiple core algorithm updates this summer. There was actually one that just started rolling out earlier this week that didn't even make its way into my deck because it is still ongoing, as well as the highly touted page experience update that Google has been talking about for the last year or so. So for e-commerce brands, Google's also tightened restrictions around things like product listing pages, which has made the paid channel a little bit more expensive. As a result. So we'll dive into a little of that. Secondly, the focus on returning to normal, or to what our new normal is going to be, is really impacting not just how businesses interact, but how consumers interact. And while businesses are still trying to figure out when employees may be back in offices and things like that, consumers face some of these same same challenges. When it comes to the holiday season specifically, consumers will have some of these concerns that'll be top of mind. for all of us, as we try to drive our consumers online. Thirdly, brands, really kind of need to be thinking about, well, their brands. It's not just enough to assume that your brand is known in the market, as brands like Corona Beer and Delta Airlines more recently, have found out. And here's kind of some examples here of, what happens now when you search for Delta NYC. It's all really related, to the current, COVID variant that, that is making its way, through, through the world right now. But that's really kind of changed how a brand like Delta needs to approach how their branded search is is working for them, to make sure that both their organic and their paid are are performing how they want it to be, given what's happened with their brand name right now. And fourth, that we'll dive into, is the upcoming death of the cookie, which is really challenging retailers in in many ways. And for us, the answer to these is really honing in on the strength of your organic program, throughout all of the year. And if that's something you haven't been doing, now is undoubtedly the time, to really start looking under the hood to make sure that you're in a good spot, for the holiday season and for back to school. I already talked a little bit about the Google Google volatility that we've been seeing. A lot of the industry has been waiting for since 2020 for the Core Web Vitals algorithm to come out. You've probably been talking about that at some of your companies and within some of your organizations longer than we've been talking about COVID. That started to make its way, or started to roll out in June, which really started to change some of the search landscape. And then in addition, Google, decided it was a really good time to drop a couple other core algorithm updates. And like I said, another update just earlier this week on us, which really is moving, creating a lot of movement in the in the organic search results. It's causing brands to to have to react. And again, now is really a time to really be looking at where you have kind of fallen in a lot of these, or where the dust has settled, I should say, for your brand in a lot of these, after a lot of these updates, given the important seasons that we do have coming up. As far as those focusing on paid search, there have been some challenges there as well. In the year, Google announced that we're going to be phasing out broad match modifier type match types, forcing campaigns to move to either broad match or exact match strategy. So for some, this has really impacted overall campaign structure and spend. And to combat this, Google announced changes to smart bidding, but that which was really meant to help drive ROAS. However, that also requires Google control, or giving Google control of some of your campaigns, and in some cases, it has actually resulted in an increase in spend. So that's been a challenge on the paid search side. And finally, kind of at the same time, we've seen many brands starting to pull away some from from paid search, or sorry, yeah, from paid search, to kind of control their own destiny. According to a CoreSite report, Botify Commission, Airbnb made a significant shift, during the pandemic, away from paid media due to the results they were seeing. And a quote here was, what the pandemic showed us is that we can take marketing down to zero and still have 95% of the same traffic as the year before. We're not going to forget that lesson. And that was from CEO and co-founder Brian Chesky, and he had mentioned that on CNBC. And then during the final quarter of 2020, more than 90% of Airbnb's traffic was direct or unpaid. He told Chesky told the analysts on an earnings call in February 2021 that we think that that trend will continue in the future. So a big shift there, and it's not the only brand that we're seeing that from. Another significant brand also making this shift includes L'Oreal. In a fireside chat with Spotify, L'Oreal's Chief Marketing and Digital Officer, Elise Ducret, said, "We were forced to cut some of our paid media spend, and it has become clear that SEO has regained its first place as a performance channel for us and become more important than ever." She also pointed to the credibility associated with organic search, in contrast to the fast but artificial nature of paid marketing, saying that the other key benefit with organic search is the credibility it provides to our consumers. Paid is more straightforward because we buy keywords and we appear in searches as a result. With SEO, in comparison, we develop a content strategy, become subject matter leaders, and ensure we are capturing the interest of our consumers in an authentic way. And kind of one just more anecdotal area where we've seen the two disciplines, paid and organic search, really kind of play off each other is, the last year has really been some SEO's time to shine, so to speak, as the search landscape and user behavior really, changed overnight last year. A lot of times organic, keyword data was really looked to see, well, how are consumers searching all of a sudden? Because there was a lot of brand terms that all of a sudden were getting a lot of volume that, that had never been searched before. And as somebody with 15 years experience in SEO, it was very nice to see, the SEOs get that kind of visibility, which maybe they hadn't seen, organizationally, in the past. As we return to normal here, and I guess I joked when we were prepping for this, I probably should have changed that to the new normal, because what will normal be, after the dust settles. But during the COVID-19 crisis, online shopping stopped being more of a convenient option, and in some cases became the only option. Some of the stats we've seen was just that as a result, by July 2020, almost 60% of customer interactions were digital compared to 36% in December 2019. At the same time, businesses had to change to mitigate the pandemic's impact on their present and future success. For many, that meant undergoing digital transformation, maybe sooner than they had planned. Without such an unforeseen catalyst, forcing their hand. I can tell you again on the organic search side, that was a conversation we had a lot last year with a lot of brands who had said, we've been talking about digital transformation for years. We've been talking about, starting to implement it, and now that everything that had happened really kind of forced their hand to do it, maybe sooner than they had been planning. And digital is not going away. According to Adobe Analytics for Amazon's Cyber Prime Day promotion, total online retail sales in the United States during Prime Day 2021 were 6.1% higher than the transactions generated from the 2020 event. The increase, an even greater increase in online transactions there. From a branding perspective, what we're seeing is that in an already cluttered, online environment, brands really need to do whatever it takes to stand out. In many cases, this includes a return to a product positioning and brand-based campaigns. A CNBC report suggests that while many are pivoting paid dollars into other channels, at least 70% of companies surveyed are planning to do a brand-based campaign this year to try to stand out. Salesforce noted specifically in its State of the Connected Consumer report that digital engagement has hit a tipping point this year, with an estimated 60% of interactions taking place online compared to 40% last year. The company expects that trend to become part of the new normal post-pandemic. In its survey, it showed that 80% of business buyers expect to conduct more business online after the pandemic than before. As a result, it's more important than ever to stand out versus just be in the game. After all, think of your own purchasing habits, and do you buy from a brand that you remember hearing about online, or from a friend, or just picking up a label and reading the packaging? Another interesting one, a little bit outside of, say, organic search and just search in general, but from a hiring perspective, LinkedIn has seen a 150% increase in demand for product marketing roles in 2021, and more than a 400% increase in ABM-based, marketing over the last, 3 years. So it really signals the importance from a structural perspective of leading with messaging versus more strategic, tactical approaches. Last one that we have before kind of wrapping up, and then kicking it over to the panel, is just the death of the cookie. Google announced earlier this year that Chrome would no longer allow third-party cookies. Although the implementation of this has been pushed to next year, Apple has also announced that it will no longer allow tracking from its Mail app. This means that if somebody clicks on a link, in a promotional email, all of the pivotal Munchkin information will no longer pass. Many are calling this the death of the cookie, as MarTech has relied on third-party cookies for some time now to provide critical user information and personalization. However, we see that keen marketers have seen this coming for some time now, with the passing of 2018's GDPR in the EU, 2019's CCPA for California, and upcoming legislation in Brazil and Australia. And as this graph shows, by late 2019, Google Chrome made up more than 56% of the of the browser market, and accounts for more than half of the global web traffic. And just in wrapping up with some recommendations and some things that that we see a lot of our clients doing, and using branding as a way to reach consumers, as well as engaging in more personalized ways, such as ABM or on-page personalization. Embracing digital transformation in new ways, including new channels, varied marketing mixes, and maybe different MarTech solutions. Third, again, as somebody who's been in the SEO space for many years, leveraging organic search, to help lessen the volatility of Google and lower ad spend. Again, like I said, it's been very fun seeing that some more reliance on some of the first-party organic data across our client client base over the last year. We see that trend continuing. And then 4, just have a plan for understanding your consumers without the use of third-party cookies. And if number 3 specifically interests you, just a reminder that our SEO playbook is available via the download in the webinar.
Great, great stuff, Frank. Thank you. It's as someone who's been in SEO for 15 years, your excitement about it, kind of time to shine, is come out pretty clear. And I could just hear sense the head nodding from all the people listening to the webinar when you were talking about some of the examples from Airbnb and L'Oreal and this emphasis and shift towards content. And these are all things we're going to dig into with the panel. And also a little bit of a hint towards some of the topics on the panel will be through the instant polls that we're going to do. So again, so you understand where everything is, if you look on the upper right, you'll see the polls there. You can see that they're open or closed or in progress. And that's just the best way to go and see what those are. And again, feel free to use the chat to talk with your fellow audience members and make comments on some of the things that you're hearing about what's going on in the discussion. And also, please, we encourage everybody to ask questions of the speakers, and we'll try to get to those as many as we can. All right, so let's see what our audience is thinking about related to this topic. So the first question, again, some of these are a hint about some of the stuff that we're going to be getting into in the panel, is how will the role of brand and content change for digital marketing for the rest of the year and into 2022? Will it be a much greater role, somewhat greater, about the same, somewhat less, or much less of a role? So clearly, nobody, zero folks feel like it's going to be less or much less of a role. Somewhat greater role is about 50%. Number 2 is much greater role. So a lot that's going on, and everyone on the webinar believes in terms of brand and content. So the next question is, how do you plan to change the size or investment in your marketing creative resources in the near future? This could be hiring, this could be external resources for creative. Will there be much more investment, somewhat more investment, about the same, a little bit less, or much less investment? Again, similar to content and brand, nobody thinks there's going to be less going on there. And around, well, it's kind of coming between like 50 and 60% is somewhat more investment, a little bit much more investment, around 40% or so is same investment. So not as extreme as the brand and content, but definitely some increased activity in that area. So we will move on to, this is the third of 4 questions. Which digital marketing challenge concerns you the most for holiday 2021? Is it data, and just pick one that's most concerning to you? Is it data privacy restrictions that are decreasing the ability to target? Is it a more crowded, more competitive market that you're advertising into? Is it unpredictable consumer behavior? Or is it, and this is somewhat related to B, but increased media costs, higher CPCs, and so on? Only one person is worried about none of those, so good for them. But it looks like a more crowded market seems to be the biggest concern, followed by an unpredictable consumer behavior and increased media costs. These are all like around a third that we're seeing. So we will go to our last question. And this is a tee up for next week's webinar on scaling personalization. Very simple question. How would you grade your personalization efforts to date? Excellent, good, average, below average, non-existent, or poor? Well, I think this is going to be a good topic for next week. In fact, considering that a quarter of you are marking non-existent poor, for how you would grade your personalization efforts. So I'm glad we will have some good content for you to chew on that particular topic. But biggest number one here is that it's average. There's about a quarter of you that feel like it's good. About a fifth, again, I'm surprised at how much that is, non-existent or poor. So I think everybody here feels like they have a lot, or not everybody, but a fair amount feels like they have a fair amount of work to do to up their game on their personalization efforts. So, like I said, that is giving us a little preview of the conversation to come. And I want to bring up our panelists, Vivek and Liz, and we'll get them to introduce themselves and hear some of their points of view on some of these things that are going on. So Vivek and Liz, welcome to our virtual stage. Frank, good to have you back. Thanks again for a great presentation. So I want to start with some introductions. I guess we'll start with Vivek. If you can please introduce yourself and your company, and just help everybody understand the way that you go to market. Talk about the top 3 performance marketing channels, however you would define that, that you operate in right now.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me, Scott. Hey, everyone. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at UrbanStems. And in my role, I lead marketing, merchandising, e-commerce, and our B2B teams. From an enterprise standpoint, I'm also responsible for analytics and technology functions. And it's really interesting to interplay these two functions with the other more core business functions. Prior to UrbanStems, I was at Novel Brands, where I was leading their direct-to-consumer business across their entire brand portfolio. And before that, I was at Barnes & Noble, where I held various e-commerce roles. So I've been in e-commerce for quite a while now. As far as UrbanStems goes, UrbanStems is a digitally native direct-to-consumer brand. And our core mission is really to enable human connection through our unique and thoughtful approach to gifting. We offer modern, fresh, and dried floral arrangements that you can buy online. We offer on-trend plans and also curated gifts, like gift boxes and some other unique gifts. And we ship nationwide through next-day shipping, and really trying to provide a very modern approach towards floral and gifting. In terms of our top performance marketing channels, we actually have quite a few different channels that have started to interplay with each other. But specifically talking about performance marketing, we are definitely investing heavily on Google, paid social, primarily Facebook, and affiliates is also an increasing part of our overall media mix. But more recently, we have started to go more mid-funnel and upper funnel, and starting to see a lot more traction on those channels as well.
Great. Thank you. And Liz, again, just like Vivek did, just help us understand a little bit about yourself about Lunia and how do you go to market in terms of performance marketing?
Great. So I'm Lizzielinski, and I'm Chief Growth Officer at Lunia. And so that means I'm focused on everything marketing related, as well as kind of anything that drives revenue, all the consumer facing sides of the business. And Lunia, we're a DTC luxury sleepwear company. So we sell both luxury sleep and luxury lounge apparel, basically everything that you want to wear at home that'll make you feel your best when you're hanging out in your home environment. Our women's brand is called Lunia, but we also have a brand new men's brand called Lago, Lahgo, if you're looking that up, and also made with some of the same fabrics and attention to detail that's really like custom designed for that at home time. In terms of channels, so historically we've been very Facebook and Google oriented, but in terms of like finding a third one that rises to the surface in the last couple of years, especially the last 2 years, we've really been diversifying a lot. So everything from video, affiliate, like Vivek mentioned, is also big for us, influencer, catalog, direct mail, a lot more attention to our email and text program. So the name of the game has been trying to, diversify a lot, not have all our eggs in one basket.
Great. So, in Frank's presentation, he talked about a lot of things that are going on, from algorithm changes to kind of stepping up everyone's game on branding, and certainly a lot of emphasis on organic search and changes to algorithms and so on. But kind of looking ahead to the second half of the year, starting with back to school, certainly, and most importantly, holiday. Start with you, Vivek. What do you see are the biggest changes to performance marketing that you're following closely that I don't want to say keep you up at night, but are of greatest concern?
Yeah, sure. I think it's really interesting. The biggest thing that we are continuing to track very closely is how COVID continues to evolve and change consumer behavior. I think we are seeing the impact industry-wide during the summer season, as more and more customers or people go back to in-person and pre-COVID behaviors. There is clearly an impact that is happening on digital and performance marketing. So that's something that continues to be an area of concern and something that we are tracking. The second, I would say, is really tracking all the data privacy tracking issues, more specifically, more tactically, I would say Facebook and iOS changes that I think are, again, impacting the entire industry, are things that we are reacting to and understanding how we can continue to make progress there, even despite the changes. And third, I would say, is this continued trend of strengthening your brand and how brand interplays with performance marketing, and really creating a more cohesive connection between your performance channels and your brand channels, if you will, is something that continues to be at forefront of what we are doing.
And Liz, what about for Lunia? Are they similar to what Vivek outlined, or are there any differences that you can talk about?
So there definitely are a lot of similarities in that branding is even more important in the current environment. Given the cookie and retargeting situation, like that, the mid funnel is really that retargeting moment is, where there's the most pressure in terms of, having an effective performance marketing program. And so that really means that you really need to be able to pull the consumers in. You need to be able to message them, make them understand the brand on some of those some of those acquisition and upper funnel moments, because you're not going to be able to count on retargeting and just going, would you like to buy this product? Would you like to buy this product? Would you like to buy this product? Like that, previous strategy is not going to work anymore. So brands that really focused on doing, a lot of like push marketing like that, I think will struggle this year. And so, for us, stronger, we have a strong brand. And so we're really, planning to lean into that and make sure that we're, pursuing conversation and community and trying to make sure that we're developing the pull aspects of the brand, because we have to count on the consumer to be able to remember to come back if you can't rely fully on retargeting.
So I'm going to grab one of the questions that came in from the audience. This is from Douglas Mapes, and he's asking if brands are seeing converting traffic from SEO driven organic and non-paid traffic. Where do you foresee affiliate marketing fitting into the changing landscape as brands can do it for themselves? Vivek, I saw you have a point of view here, and I'd love to hear Frank's point of view as well.
Sure. Do you want to go ahead, Frank, or?
No, go for it. I've already talked a lot.
Sure. So from my standpoint, I think affiliate marketing is a very important part of the overall media mix. And the way the affiliate marketing is evolving is it's going more and more into the content space. We are seeing a pretty big interplay between affiliates and your traditional PR or earned media, and how we continue to take advantage of the fact that a great brand, creating a great brand, along with more pressure on the affiliate side, particularly on the content sites, is where we are seeing a lot more action happening versus the traditional coupon sites or the traditional way of thinking about affiliate marketing. So that would be my kind of recommendation, is really thinking through the various sub channels within the affiliate space and which channels are working best for the brand that you all are managing.
Yeah, I mean, I would add, from what we see, and for just being in SEO for years, that affiliate just becomes harder and harder and harder to to perform well from from an organic search perspective. So I mean, a lot of the algorithm updates over the last 10 years or so has made it, I would say, more of a challenge if you're a traditional just affiliate marketer trying to compete with the brands that that are out there, especially because from what we could see is that we've seen a lot of traditional brands who maybe you think of as strict e-commerce players really start to invest more and more into content, and that has traditionally been a little bit of where affiliate marketers have had opportunity, is creating content around some of the areas that maybe e-commerce sites weren't building it out for. So like buying guides, we're talking about back to school and holiday now, so like building out content around themes like that, and then being able to drive their success from that perspective. But over the last, I would say, a few years, we've seen a lot of a much more of an increase, I should say, in that type of content production from direct brands as well, which has really just made it challenging, again, for an affiliate. And if you really want to do well there from an organic search perspective, I mean, you really have to create a brand. You have to create an experience that's going to really allow you to rank well, in Google and the other search engines.
And Liz, I know you, on our prep call, were enthusiastic about affiliate and any channel where you get some external endorsement, including influencers. So I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add about your point of view on affiliates, not necessarily related to organic search, but just in general.
I'm in a similar space with Vivek, where I think there's many different types of affiliate. And so, we're a luxury brand. So when we focus on affiliate, we really focus on those, credible publishers, because we're looking for, endorsement. We're looking for thoughtful journalism around the affiliate versus, we're not a coupon site brand. We don't discount. We're a luxury brand. We, we have high quality fabrics. We charge based on the quality of the garment for us. And so we're, we don't like chase the coupon sites. So once you're kind of in that model where you're talking about the value that an affiliate brings in terms of them producing content, I'm not worried about an affiliate producing great content that then brings people back to the site and they're providing value in terms of their journalism. That's great. We'll produce content on our own site as well. But to me, I see it as being supplemental. The two pieces work together. I don't see our affiliates as being competitive with us, because we're not using those, sort of like low tier affiliates. We're looking for people who are, credible sites, or they have a credible blog. They're tastemakers, in their community, and so their opinion has value.
So I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I think take advantage of Frank being with us and all of his expertise for this conversation on organic search. And he already outlined a number of these trends, like the volatility with Google and the algorithm changes, and how there's been some changes with the branded search, which also, makes the SEO a little bit more valuable. But maybe start with you, Vivek. I mean, are you, is UrbanStems seeing some of these changes to organic search in your business? Are you being impacted by them? And are there any kind of adjustments that you've made as a result of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Organic search has been at the forefront of what we are doing right now, and clearly the Google Web Vitals release. It's always SEO has always been evolving, and I think the rate of change is only increasing of how Google is react or changing the algorithms. For us, the way we think about SEO is really continuing to do the things that will drive the consumer experience and engagement. That is through content, investing a lot in our content strategy, in our blog, and really creating content that will create a better consumer experience and be relevant for our customers and engaging. At the same time, I think Google Web Vitals is sending a clear signal that we have to focus on technical SEO, whether it's your site performance, site speed, your category structure or URLs. Like all those things are becoming more and more important. So, and with Frank in the room, I think SEO clearly is it's always balancing these two things and continuing to do the right things in both these areas, whether it's creating content and focusing on technical SEO, because it's especially with all the challenges that we were talking about on the page space, whether it's your changing consumer behavior or inability to do a lot of the tracking with changes in cookies or otherwise with iOS changes. I think SEO continues to become a really important channel for a lot of brands, including for us.
And Liz, I see you nodding your head. I don't know if you're just in full agreement with Vivek, or had anything else you wanted to add on some of the, how these are impacting Lunia, these changes to organic search and the signals that Google is sending to marketers.
I actually think for us, there's a whole other space around what was happening, during the pandemic, in that we've seen dramatic shifts over the past year in terms of like what people are searching for and how and when. And, Frank talked a little bit about that in the intro, like the whiplash effect has been huge. When the lockdowns first happened, folks figured out that they didn't have the right clothes for their wardrobe for living at home. And so all of a sudden, like everyone like rushed into a bunch of keywords that previously hadn't had, high volume. These were trends that were sort of already seen. We were already seeing, a lot of these trends happening. And what happened is just, COVID amplified it. So what had been like 0 to 30 was now 0 to 60 and just, hit the gas. The other thing that happened a lot this year is we saw a lot more competition on our non-brand keywords, as brands that don't really know the sleep category and lounge category kind of like scrambled to market in that space and try and serve up their products as being, good for those use cases. And so we saw a lot more competition than we had. That's continued into this year as brands kind of took their year to transform, and then here they are hanging out this year. So for us, the competition happens like, in the search algorithm and the keywords and how you're planning your strategy, how you're doing your technical SEO, but it's also about messaging on your landing page and making the landing page appropriate. So once we do get that hit, making sure that hit is productive. And so, really, product description pages for us are, more important. We're really like focused on that. We're really this year focused on spending more time, articulating and educating on our product benefits and our fabric benefits, and really showing the difference between Lunia versus, kind of every other website they might land on when they search the term sleepwear or, whatever it is they're looking for. So for us, it's out there in the market, but really it's about what happens on our site.
And Frank, I mean, aside from exploring tools like Botify, what else are you seeing brands doing to further embrace organic? Is there any organizational changes that you're seeing, or do you have any recommendations for digital leaders to what they can do to get more out of this channel, given that it's playing a more important role?
Obviously, invest more in SEO is number one, but outside of that, no, one, it's also music to my ears as somebody who's been in this industry, like I said, for a while. I remember the days when us SEOs were, the person you stuck in the corner, and didn't really talk to people organizationally, because I was that, that was me 15 years ago, to now being kind of really ingrained. And I think one of the things we've seen organizationally that actually, I would say probably even started pre-pandemic, but the pandemic has also somewhat accelerated that, and some of the algorithm updates have accelerated this, is though that traditionally I think SEO has always been a discipline, or a channel that's kind of not necessarily had a clear home. In some cases it was in marketing, in other cases it was in web development, and it kind of lived in a lot of different places organizationally. But one thing that we've seen is that we were starting to see more of a shift of there almost being like pure technical SEO teams within organizations that live within product and that are ingrained with the development team, so that the brands that we see the most successful in organic search are the ones that have SEO kind of at the forefront of the development of the of the website, where they are ingrained with the product. Because as Vivek mentioned, the importance of technical SEO has only gotten more important with things like the core out, or the web core vitals. So we've seen that shift start, I would say probably 2-3 years ago, and it's only been becoming more and more kind of prevalent throughout the industry, of having that that pure technical team, maybe even separated a little bit from your team, that focuses on branding, focuses on content, because they are two very, very different disciplines, I would say, within SEO. And when you separate them out and have people focus on them specifically, we've seen a lot of our clients have great success doing that.
Yeah, it's interesting that, I mean, SEO, the point of view you have on it, and affiliate, I think, was in a corner similarly, that is becoming more important now. So it's this theme of what's old is new, or what used to be less important is more important. So I wanted to switch gears to measurement and attribution and incrementality. There was a question that came in from Ari, kind of related to this, but we're seeing these changes from Apple, Facebook shrinking the attribution window, and how is this impacting conversion outcomes, in terms of top, middle, bottom of the funnel. So Vivek, why don't you start us off on this, of kind of what you're seeing, where is it affecting you the most and not?
Yeah, it's like Facebook and iOS updates have, of course, created a massive impact for a lot of marketers who were using Facebook as one of their key platforms. And I think more on the measurement side, we were always using multiple attribution windows through the Facebook platform, whether it was 1-day click or 7-day. So when some of those attribution windows went away, we had a lot of historical kind of understanding of their more smaller attribution windows or click-based attribution windows. That said, I think even those windows were getting impacted with all these changes, and the data was kind of very volatile, where you couldn't understand fully what's happening within that channel. So it was really at that point like triangulation of different data points, whether looking at our own first-party data that we were seeing in Google Analytics, understanding the overall lift, using again some of our own first-party data, whether through GA or through some other sources that we have, and really try to understand how impactful Facebook still is, even when a lot of these targeting capabilities are going away. That said, I think as marketers, we all have to prepare for more and more of these platforms becoming walled gardens, or inability for them to use the same data identifiers or data points for targeting that we have historically relied on. And that's where the importance of first-party analytics continues to remain very, very strong. We are focusing on that and trying to really build some of those data pipes ourselves, so that there is more control over understanding the consumer journey, where customers are coming from, and truly trying to understand which channel is doing what in terms of performance. So that's kind of just the way we are approaching analytics, attribution, and some of the changes that we are seeing in the ecosystem.
And for anyone who's listening, Vivek, that is maybe getting started on this attribution, measurement, incrementality journey, like any kind of piece of advice of, what was particularly hard about this, or any surprises, gotchas anyone should look out for?
Yeah, like I think there's no silver bullet for attribution. I think that's something that we all need to understand and realize, that there is no perfect answer. If somebody is saying that this is the perfect answer, I think that's not right. So I think just having understanding of the fact that any attribution algorithm or solution that gets created is it needs to be looked at from different angles and with the context of what the business is trying to do, I think is important. It requires a different level of just technical infrastructure, similar to the discussion we were having on SEO, where it requires a big partnership between your technical side and the business side. Attribution is again one of those things. And as I was saying in my role earlier, I'm leading all the core business functions, marketing, merchandising, e-commerce, but at the same time, I have technology and analytics. And I think the combination of those functions together is where you see a lot of the benefit, or even trying to even get to the right answers for attribution needs to happen. So I think it requires a lot of collaboration across different areas of your organization for this to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you have a great advantage of having all that functionality in the room at the same time, that to do that coordination. So good for you on that. So part of I guess maybe related to the measurement is this trend towards just less ability to track online advertising, less precise targeting. And Liz, when we had the prep call, you were talking about this is a time to be a brand-led organization and to really focus on creative and brand storytelling. Maybe you could tell us, your point of view on that that you articulated on the prep call, so everyone else can hear it, and what you're doing to act on that instinct.
Yeah, part of what it really means is that, like I said, you're not going to be able to count on this fact of being able to only optimize your way via media channel or via targeting. It really has to be a messaging led strategy as well. And so for us, Vivek talked a little bit about MarTech stack. That's something that we had been focusing on, over the past couple of years. When I came into the business, we're very rapidly going brand. So, going from very small capability and trying to put processes in place, like, get our CDP in place so that we can actually be collecting first party data about customers. And then once we understand who the customer is, or who the prospect is, if we have their email address or their phone number, and really being able to provide relevant messages and personalization back towards them, and really going out with messages that are going to interest people, as opposed to purely counting on an algorithm to do our work for us. Like really saying, okay, we need to be a message led organization. We need to start with brand. We need to go back to old fashioned good bread and butter marketing. Why do consumers want to buy our brand? What is the emotional connection we're creating for them, so that we can create a brand that's a pull brand instead of relying only on push strategies? So I think it's a rebalancing that has happened, where there was so much emphasis on algorithm-based marketing, and now really needed to pull those two things together to say, yes, algorithm, but it also has to be about content and message and brand.
And what does this mean for the composition of your team, the skill sets there, where you're investing in headcount? How are you handling that?
Yeah, so we actually have a lot of open positions on our team. So if anybody's out there listening is interested in our brand, I'll make a plug. We do have a performance marketing manager. Our performance marketing manager, we're really looking for somebody that knows content and brand as well. That, yes, they're a media person and that they know Facebook and Google, but we really want them to be a message, a thinker who understands brand and message as well, because we see that as being one of the most important components of how our social media advertising works, and really having a good partnership in that place. We do have an analyst on the same team, Vivek, like you. We put analytics and, e-com and performance marketing together. So, we have another open spot for more analytics because we're, expanding and creating more depth in that area. And then over in the creative and brand side, I've opened up some new positions. We have a new junior copywriter position. One of the things that position is going to be focused on is content copywriting and managing our, content creators. So we're really kind of like leaning into those spaces, like, looking for our performance team to be analytical and creatively minded together in one team so that there's that real interaction, and then making sure that, we have content creation happening. I thought Frank's conversation around his trend and seeing technical and content SEO separating, I was sort of interested in that conversation. I haven't specifically opened up a technical SEO position on my team, but I thought that was great insight for me, something I'm going to use as a takeaway.
So for fair play, Vivek, feel free to mention any open positions that you want people to know about as well. And anything else you want to mention on, this idea of being brand led that hasn't been, been said so far.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We have similar to Liz, we have a fair amount of positions open across the spectrum, like hiring for technical roles, marketing, merchandising, several other roles as well. But yeah, like we have a very similar setup that Liz was saying. We just filled a content strategist position for creating content. We do have a MarTech manager position open, so we are specifically hiring somebody who can run the MarTech stack within marketing, very close connections to tech, but analytics, SEO, technical SEO, all those things would kind of fall there. And in terms of brand, I think that has to remain in the forefront. We haven't talked a lot about a lot of the things being like the brand storytelling, making those authentic connections with the customers. We haven't talked about the social media or ambassador space, influencers. I think those are equally important, and influencers to me are becoming a performance channel. A lot of the influencer programs are being now run through your affiliate platforms. And to me, I think some of those areas are super important because you can actually signal your brand and still continue to gain the efficiencies that you would gain through a regular performance channel. So those are some of the other things that we are focusing on as well, and how they interplay with the core performance marketing channels is something that is an evolution. I've already seen a lot of changes in the last 12 months or so in that space.
All right. Well, we're just about out of time. I'm seeing if there's any more questions that came in. Well, this one, I think on the incrementality, I'll just ask this very specific question for you, Vivek. As you test new channels and diversify your performance media mix, do you measure incrementality as an indicator for success of a new channel?
Absolutely, we do. I think if we look at both first-party analytics, so what is the on-platform number that any of these new channels are showing us, but that's, of course, we know there's a duplication of just credit happening. So we look at the overall incrementality. We just did a TV campaign back during the Mother's Day time period, and that was our main measure for measuring that channel was the incrementality over the baseline. So yeah, in the interest of time, the short answer is yes, and it's really important for us to do that.
Cool. All right.
I'm hiring too, by the way, just throwing it out there. So we have
yes. Frank, please. Yeah. Well, why don't we can wrap up with your openings as well.
2 roles on my team for solutions consultants. If people want to get into software, it's a fun world. And we also have multiple positions on our marketing team for those who maybe don't want to get too deep into software, but we're hiring as well. So hit us up.
All right. Well, Liz, Frank, Vivek, thank you all for spending some time with the Commerce Next audience and sharing your thoughts about what's going on in performance marketing. We covered a lot of ground, and there was a lot of great information and insight shared. Frank, especially thank you for Botify's sponsorship and helping us go a little bit deeper into some content and thoughts on organic search and SEO. So we will be back next Wednesday with our next webinar on personalization at scale. Please look into joining us in person on September 28th and 29th at Commerce Next IRL. And with that, have a great rest of your day, and we look forward to seeing you all next week. Thank you again, everybody.
Thank you.